You know what I like about Full Metal Alchemist? The fact that it's an entire anime dedicated to the concept of once a character dies, they stay dead. Get out of here with your Dragon Ball bullshit. If you try to revive anyone, not only are you gonna fail miserably, but you have a pretty good chance of dying yourself. Yeah, hope you weren't attached to those limbs or that body of yours, cause fuck you, and fuck the shonen anime you clearly just finished marathoning, but that ain't how things work in good anime. Don't worry, the good anime bit was just a bit of an exaggeration. After all, the first FMA series is trash garbage! There are a lot of anime tropes I could do without. I could never see another tsundere character again and feel no sense of loss. I genuinely believe that the world would be a better place overall if another harem or reverse harem anime about a boring protagonist with no interesting or unique features never got made again. I'm pretty sure we'd obtain world peace in a matter of minutes if there were never another scene in which the male protagonist accidentally walks in on the female protagonist changing in the first episode. But in a world with no anime in which characters are brought back from the dead, either for no reason at all, or more likely, a reason that's just plain bullshit, then not only am I sure that we'd obtain world peace, but I'm pretty sure that death, famine, and disease would simply go away, would just totally be gone. Our favorite anime characters would die so that we may live longer, happier, and healthier. Whole new meaning to the phrase, my waifu is my laifu. So yeah, in case I didn't spell it out clearly enough, let me say it clearly. I fucking hate it when an anime resurrects a character for no good reason! But why do I hate this trope so much? Imagine, if you will, a good anime, maybe even a great anime, just an anime that you like. You're watching it for the first time, having a jolly old time, and then suddenly, character dies. You're sad, but the series carries on, and then a while later, they're brought back to life through the power of friendship, or maybe they didn't really die, and for some stupid reason, just actively chose not to tell anybody until it was convenient for the plot. Something bullshitty. You're kind of pissed off now. This character fucking died! You've already counted them out, you already cried your heart out for them, and then they just come waltzing back in like it's no big deal, just a typical day in the undead neighborhood. It's cheap. It's a cheap cop-out by writers to get that sitcom-y, everything worked out in the end and nothing has changed, thank God we don't have to change any of the promotional images effect. And you know what I'll watch if I want to watch something with that kind of an effect? A sitcom! Let's take a very famous anime death as an example. I'm pretty sure that this one is so well known that I don't need to call it a spoiler, but just in case, Death Note spoiler alert. Death Note is another one of those wonderful series where the dead always stay dead. Could you imagine how pissed off you'd be if he just came strolling back in a few episodes later saying that the task force's tears brought him back to life? Or that maybe he was just only pretending to be dead to get a couple days off from the Kira case. I know in the live action movies light doesn't kill him, but that's just a whole other can of worms. Besides, he's only playing dead for a matter of minutes in the movies, not entire episodes. Bringing a character back to life needlessly not only hurts the integrity of the writing, but severely hurts any emotional gravity that it had. Like, it's really hard for me to be sad when I see a character die in a series where they've already brought someone back to life for no good reason, because there's a chance that they might be brought back to life too, so why waste time being sad? You lose that sense of trust, and when you lose that trust, you lose a lot of the emotional investment in that show. It's like being kicked in the shins by a show you've done nothing but love, and this bullshittery is how they repay you. And for every time another character comes back from the dead, you're kicked in the shins again. Eventually, you'll not only get used to it, but you're probably gonna come to expect it. And unless your hobby is getting kicked in the shins, you're not gonna have fun. In fact, you're probably gonna wonder why you love this anime so much in the first place. You lose your emotional attachment to it, and causing emotional attachment is one of the hallmarks of great writing. Like, when was the last time you were sad about a death in Dragon Ball? Probably the first death you saw, maybe a miscellaneous one here or there, but only because you didn't realize that they were gonna be back in the next arc most likely. After a while, you probably stopped being sad altogether, because it becomes predictable. Now, I know some of you may argue that there are times when the writing calls for it, and that by doing this, they're actually boosting the emotional gravity the show has. You get a taste of what the series is like without a given character, and it doesn't taste very good. In fact, it probably tastes salty, like your tears. So when you see him back in action, you're struck with that wave of relief and happiness. You don't know what you got till it's gone, and now that you know what it's like with that character gone, you're not gonna take them for granted anymore. And yeah, totally. I absolutely agree, that does happen sometimes. Sometimes. Keyword, sometimes. It's pretty rare. I offer you the rebuttal that for every one series that does this right, there's another 20 that don't. And I know that up until now I've been using Dragon Ball and Naruto as examples themselves, but only because they're probably the biggest users of this trope, at least as far as anime is concerned. To name some of the other anime in which the dead have magically come back to life, anime that I can no longer trust when I see someone die, are Rosen Maiden, Inuyasha, Sailor Moon, Yu Yu Hakusho, Macross 7, Danganronpa, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Bleach, and dare I mention another one of the biggest addicts, nay, offenders of this trope, dare I mention Gundam Seed and Gundam Seed Destiny, which has used this trope so much that the main character has been nicknamed by the fans Jesus Yamato. I could name more if you want, but then I'd need an extra 10 minutes. And although this video is centered around talking about this trope used in anime, it's definitely not exclusive to anime. I just think it happens more often in anime. To name some instances of this happening in Western entertainment are pretty much any slasher film, Once Upon a Time, Star Trek, Doctor Who, Game of Thrones, and without a doubt, the worst abuser of this trope of all time, Supernatural. Although, you know, fun fact, Supernatural did also have an anime, but that's another video for another day. But just so we're on the same page here, little disclaimer. Just by using this trope, although you're definitely bringing down the quality of your writing and trust by doing this, it doesn't necessarily make the anime or show in general bad. More often than not, I end up disliking any anime that uses this trope, especially if it uses it as often as something like Naruto, Dragon Ball, or Gundam Seed, but there are a few exceptions. I mean, I still adore JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Macross 7 is one of my favorite mecha anime of all time, and like most anime fans my age, I have a huge soft spot for Sailor Moon. It's just that, in my humble opinion, my humble onion, they just would have all been exponentially better without using this trope because it's fucking cheap! But that doesn't necessarily mean that every anime resurrection is like this though. Pretty much any anime dealing with time travel gets a pardon from me because they're usually going back in time before the death happens, like in Steins Gate, Higurashi, Madoka, and in fact, ReZero was pretty popular recently, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. The time travel activates after he dies, so naturally, it brings him back to a time when he was alive, and that makes sense. That is a good reason to resurrect a character. So it works! And even if we're forgetting about anime that deal with time travel, there are still some anime that have managed to present a good reason. Shiki, for instance, it's one of my favorite anime of all time, and it's literally an anime about a zombie vampire apocalypse, to put it very simply. In other words, people coming back from the dead is literally the plot. Moreover, it's not treated casually like it is in a lot of other anime that deal with the undead. Shiki presents us with a more scientific view of the dead coming back to life. So instead of everyone just chucking it up to LOL vampires, we're presented with symptoms, analysis, denial, experimentation, and finally, evidence. And something else I really like about it is that unlike a lot of other anime that deal with the undead, not everyone who's killed by the undead become undead themselves. Some people die for real. There's no way of knowing for sure whether or not they'll rise until after they die. Shiki goes out of its way to explain to you in what ways the dead are coming back to life. It shows you the why and the how, and yet also saying that not everyone killed will rise. Both are things that many anime that deal with the undead lack. Evangelion would fall somewhere on this spectrum too, but I don't want to talk about Eva. Another possible exception is when this trope is used in the classic form of, well, we never saw their dead body, we just assumed that they're dead. But this only works like half the time. This is very much a case-by-case basis thing, since some alleged deaths are more survivable than others. For example, Mello escaped an exploding base. Half of his face is scarred up, and we can assume from the fact that we don't hear from him for a while that he takes a while to recover, but he lived. Yeah, there have been people who have survived worse, that's plausible, but you know it's not plausible? Our good buddy from earlier, Jesus Yamato, the absolute definition of main characteritis, who took a self-destruct explosion point blank, was missing for a few episodes, and then lo and behold, there he is. And of course, let us not also forget the time he took on another giant nuclear bomb-esque explosion point blank in a duel with Shin, in which his mobile suit was impaled, and yeah, care to guess what happened?
I thought I killed you.
Yo, you felt wrong. Now it's time for me to sing my song.
Well,
in summary, if an anime's reason for bringing someone back to the dead doesn't align with one of those reasons and probably feels more like a shitty way to assure the production company that they don't have to change all the images on their marketing material because Henry heart conditions or Linda lung cancer died, then yeah, it's a shitty reason for bringing a character back to life and probably tainted what might have been an otherwise good narrative. The shitty reason can come in the form of anything from the power of friendship, plot armor, LOL vampires, a forbidden technique that someone wants to use anyways, magic, main characteritis, super science, a need for a sudden plot twist, more fighters are needed for the upcoming big fight, backup body, this isn't even my final form, to I was only pretending to be dead, the sequel, to name a few. But let's get back to the FMA example at the beginning, because this series is the antithesis to this trope. It's the vaccine anime desperately needs but chooses to ignore because it thinks it'll get AIDS or something. I don't know, something stupid. FMA is a very emotionally gripping show. You mention Nina. You so much as mention Nina anywhere on the internet, and even though it was a very short arc, everyone instantly knows what you're talking about and instantly gets sad. Because her death carried a lot of weight, because she never came back. Like everyone else in that show. FMA respects its dead characters, making it very easy for the viewer to also respect its dead characters. And that's part of the reason why deaths are so especially sad in FMA, because you know you're not gonna see them again. Their deaths have ramifications, very unlike pretty much any other shonen show out there. And what makes FMA the antithesis to the trope, as opposed to something like, say, Death Note, that's just a follower of the school of dead characters will stay dead, is that FMA goes out of its way to tell you that it's like this. It shows you what happens when you try to revive a dead character. It fails. Miserably. Brutally. So it's not just saying that dead characters stay dead, but that in trying to bring them back will only make the situation worse. So in other words, don't even fucking try it. It's a waste of your time and will only make things worse. It's not worth it. Because as I stated in the beginning, fuck you and fuck the shonen anime you clearly just finished marathoning. That's not how things work in a good anime. But for real, the first FMA series is still garbage. So who else is sad that Owain didn't make it into Fire Emblem Heroes, because he is my boy?